All right, welcome to the official Grace. Is it the other way around? I get it mixed up every time. The unofficial Grace Point podcast, where we talk about all things Grace Point, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And today we're going to be continuing in our series, Atypical Church. And we got this is gonna be fun. It's gonna be a fun episode.
It's our first time having guests, so we're pretty excited. So I'll intro them a little bit and then ask them to tell us about themselves a little bit. So we have with us Pastor Will and Rick from Pastor Will. It leads our college ministry in the DMV area, and Rick leads our college ministry in the SoCal area. And we have a lot of history together. Yeah. Steven was with Rick for like your whole life, pretty much. Yeah, that's what it feels like.
Half my life. You are our class
life.
baby.
Yeah. I was...
Well, okay, me and Isaiah were born the year that Rick went to college.
Entered college. And Pastor Will was already in college at that time, so that tells you a little bit about his age. Pastor Will and we got history too, because Pastor Will led the youth group when I was in it. That was like way back in the day. I was actually supposed to be in A2F. It's a little known thing. I was supposed to be in A2F.
Oh, you were?
Remember, because you started recruiting me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
from when I was like a junior in high school, and I didn't know what these groups were. That, yeah. So I was going to join A2F, and then
choice of a life
stuff happened.
Another thing that I still haven't forgiven you for.
Yeah, because then we would have been together. That would have been neat.
Yeah, because you were in A2F. You joined me.
Yeah. I went to Coin.
Yeah, and then next year Kairos, and then that's when Rick and I met, and it was like 12 years, 10.
Pretty much. Yeah. You were like...
I was with Rick
under Rick in some form for like 12 years. Yeah.
Except for like one semester.
So I'm going to ask them to just tell us a little bit about themselves. Tell us a little about you guys for everyone listening. So can you just start off with your graduating class and your major, and a little bit like a 2-sentence, like your spiritual background and how you came to Christ?
Because we're a college ministry, we do everything by graduating class.
Yeah, that's just how we do it.
So
mandatory questions.
Yeah.
How about Pastor Will? Yeah,
sure. Yeah, I'll start off. I graduated college in 1991, and I studied economics. And after that, I worked in the consulting field for about 10 years. Married to Esther, have 2 kids. They're all grown up, and so just really thankful for that. My spiritual journey was I grew up in a non-Christian family, but my dad became a Christian when I was 12 years old. Oh, wow. So we became a church-going family after that. I accepted Christ at my youth group with my family. But then I slowly started to fall away because there were a lot of apologetics questions about science and faith that I just couldn't get answered. Yeah. So I left that thinking, okay, I'll come back to religion later. But for the time being, just wanted to pursue just my dreams, academic ambitions for about, for the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And then when I'm getting ready, I'll see God. Yeah. But when I got to college, I had everything that I wanted, but by the time I was a junior in college, I started to ask those questions again. Why am I working so hard? What's the purpose of life? And that's when I met your dad, Isaiah, and then asked him a bunch of questions and started coming to our church. The rest is history.
There's a funny story of like when you first came to our church, and there was like people knew you. So they're surprised to see.
Wait. I don't think I know about that.
Tell a little bit of that.
So I came junior year, right? But I was a frat boy. And I had
you were a lambda.
No, I was a pineapple.
You're a pineapple.
Yeah. So it's a little different.
Full on motorcycles.
Well, they're different, and I have my opinions, but that's for another podcast, I suppose. But I kind of developed a reputation about myself in college as a frat boy, and when I stepped foot into our church, several of the sisters came up to me and said, "What are you doing here?"
Oh my gosh.
I was like,
we're not secret friendly at that time.
We're not friendly to newcomers.
And then I just wanted to say, because of God?
Yeah, that's a good answer.
But I knew where they were coming from, and believe me, I totally deserved it.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. That's a lot of humility there.
I actually experienced you when you were like just coming back. I think we were freshmen and you're like a senior.
Yeah.
I didn't have a very favorable impression.
No, I totally understand.
Just letting you know, it was a long time ago. We're cool now.
I want to hear more details about that. But I don't think we have time, but okay. So maybe Rick, just your graduating class major and kind of your spiritual story.
Yeah, so I graduated my class in 94. When I actually graduated is another story, but I studied cognitive science and I worked as a software engineer for 20 years before I went full-time. And my spiritual background is I grew up in Hawaii, so I didn't go to church. My parents, my family, we had some run-ins with some Christians. So I really had a negative view, and I just thought they were all like, to be honest, idiots. Okay, because it was bad. Anyway, so I came in not looking for church. Came to college not looking for church. But then I, from Hawaii, this is pre-internet, guys, no internet back then. And I had to find housing. And so I arranged for a boarding room at a frat. And when my parents went there to move me in, they said, oh my gosh, this place was so filthy. They said, you're not going to live here. And so then I had to scramble. Long story short, I ended up getting contacted by our church who had a house full of guys. And this is not the in-house, but one of the guys moved out for, he had a dorm contract. So then he moved out. And so the space opened up for me. That is the only reason I'm here.
Wow. Who did you know from our church, or how did you get in contact?
Well, we met someone at the housing office when we were looking for housing. And my mom, being Korean, started to talk to anyone who's Korean. Started asking them, where do you live? How did you get your housing? And then so they led us to the church. Wow. And so we called, and that's how.
Yeah, I remember it was on Regent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I came over. We played a lot of card games. Like Hazarta and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. We had like 6 freshmen and a bunch of seniors.
Oh, okay.
Cool. Okay, so the reason we wanted to have you guys on today is because today's theme of today's episode is what's changed about our church. We've been around, not necessarily as Grace Point, but basically our church has been around for about 30 years. Yeah. A little over 30 years now. And so obviously a lot is different. But, we were only around, I was around since 1990, but I wasn't in college ministry until much later, right? So we wanted to get your guys' perspective, and basically what we want...
Historical perspective.
Yeah. Historical, prehistorical perspective. So we want to get... what are the top 3 things that you are glad have changed about our church? And it could be serious, could be just kind of random cosmetic things, like whatever you want it to be.
Well, I'll start because I came in as a non-Christian, so first time at church, you walk in, and I just want to be inconspicuous, just kind of attend and whatever. Next thing you know, is like they made all the newcomers stand up and start introducing yourself to the rest of the church. So I'm glad we don't do that anymore.
Yeah. What did they make you do? They just
you just have to say your name and.
No, you got to stand up in the middle.
Yeah, so everybody's seated, and then the newcomers all stand up.
Yeah.
And then one by one, you just say like, "What's your name? What are you studying?" It's typical questions, and then they all clap for you. I'm like, okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's kind of like, "Let us welcome Brother Rick," but then you weren't even a Christian.
Wait, there was a
there was a total song.
Oh yeah. I don't think they sang for me, but I heard that before my time.
Oh, so that was even before your time.
Yeah, that was before my time.
No, when I came, first thing was to your dad's Bible study. Okay. So I came in, and you were in your mother's womb. And then, I came in to say, hey, we have a newcomer here. His name is William, and let's welcome him. And uniformly, you're standing. Yeah, right now. I'm standing. And on cue, I don't know how, they started singing this song. Oh, man. Let us welcome Brother Will. Let us, and I forgot how it goes, but I remember standing there feeling, wow, this is really awkward. And I'm a frat guy, right? I'm coming in, and I'm not used to listening to that kind of music, other type of music, right? But it was weird. But I came because I was hungry for God's word. Wow. Okay. And I loved hearing your dad speak about the Bible.
Push through this.
Yeah, so it was worth it. It was worth it, pushing through all of that just to hear the word of God.
When did we stop doing that? When did we stop doing the song? Because I don't remember that. So that must have been before
I think it must have been before you got.
So sometime in between you guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sometime in between.
Someone was 3 years. You just barely
but even afterwards, we were still welcoming people.
I remember the standing and things. Because I remember I brought some friends during high school. And then we tried to make it a little less awkward by having their friends stand up with them and introduce them.
I remember.
But then it was really awkward for the person introducing them too. So I had to do that for this guy that I had literally just met like a week before. that was rough. And then I forgot.
I don't want to invite anyone to church again.
Yeah, it was very discouraging.
While we're on the topic, like anything else around those gatherings and services?
Well, yeah, because so that's a front end. So when you're a newcomer, you come into our church. you're getting sung to, right?
Oh, man.
And then toward the end of service, there was this weird thing in which the pastor would say his closing prayer, and then he'd have us all stand, and then like en masse, like everyone knew what to do. They all reached out and they started holding each other's hands. I'm like, whoa, this is kind of weird, right? Because you do that, and then the guy next to you can have really clammy hands.
Oh God.
And after you start coming to our church for a while, you know who they are.
Yeah.
And you don't want to sit. You don't want to sit next to them at the beginning of service, knowing what's coming at the end.
Oh man.
Right. And what really made it awkward was sometimes you do that with girls too, and I'm like, whoa, this is kind of weird, and like, okay, I get it, but sometimes a girl comes by and kind of like her and stuff like that, and you didn't mind, and at the beginning, if you sit down and she sits next to you, you kind of like, okay, well, you know what's coming up at the end. Yeah. That's kind of hard to focus on the message.
She sat
and
next
everything.
to you.
Yeah, exactly, and then go up
that's
there
ideal,
and
right? Yeah, you
hold hands and just get a.
Is that why they stopped it?
Yeah, well, I don't know when we stopped that either, but it's like stuff like that happened because of tradition until someone was bold enough to say, "Hey, why are we doing this?" And then we're all like, "Yeah, why are we doing this?" And then we just stop.
Is that a Korean thing? The holding the hands and. Is that, or was that just
I don't know
church?
because I went to a Korean church in high school and I don't remember doing that.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah,
we were
I
just
think
really
it was
weird
just
that
kinda-
way.
I didn't do that at church.
Yeah. Thank the Lord
We used
that
to do
we
foot
stopped.
washing too.
We
but-
did?
Yeah.
I've heard of that.
How
but I
often?
didn't know
Yeah.
our church did that.
that's-
I'd like
It was
like
a
that,
tradition
twice in
every
middle
New
school.
Year's Eve.
You did that.
It happened like twice. Like it was like pretty special occasions though.
Yeah.
Like,
And so literally you just...
Yeah, so New Year's Eve, you came with your own bucket. So you had to bring
wait,
your own
you
bucket.
bring your own
Yeah,
BYO.
Yeah, bring your own bucket.
BYOB means something different.
And then there will be a message, and then it's about foot washing.
Yeah,
because,
John 13.
Yeah, in light of what Jesus did, right? You got to serve and love and everything. And I remember when we did that. Your dad would magically disappear somehow.
No, he hates stuff like that.
He hates
finds
stuff
that
like
so
that.
awkward.
Yeah,
Wow.
he hates stuff like that. So we're all doing it, and I'm like, wait, where's Ed? Because I just knew him as Ed back then because he was just a lawyer. But then he would somehow find like some technical issue or some sound issue in which he had to fix or something like
And go to
that.
the bathroom or
yeah,
something.
that was really awkward.
Oh, I actually did not know we did that.
That's kind of disgusting.
Oh, gosh.
But you don't remember that.
No.
And how did
no.
they...
We probably ended that.
I'm thankful.
Rick, so you were the cusp of a new generation.
Yeah.
How can you? Oh, anyways.
How did they...
Well, okay. So come to think of it, your dad, he went to Boston to plant a church,
Right.
And then when he came back, that's when he took over the college ministry,
Right.
And I think that's when he started to change,
Stop
things.
a lot of those things.
Yeah, stop a lot of the things that they were kind of nice back in the day, I suppose, but then he started to ask, hey, why are we doing this? If there wasn't a good reason, then why continue?
Praise the Lord.
I'm very thankful.
Yeah.
I don't think I would have stayed at our church if we had to.
It's just one of those things, I think. Yeah. Wow.
No,
just
just mentally, I can't even imagine.
How did they pair you up for the foot washing?
You
I love morbid fascination
you
with this whole topic.
Yeah, you just go to the person that you want to.
What?
Yeah. And so
That makes it worse, I think.
no,
If they
yeah,
just-
it was worse. But then here's the thing: like you're thinking, okay, well, I gotta submit to this, and I gotta humble myself, and I have to love
Like Jesus did.
love someone like Jesus did. And for me, it was like, okay, who do I have a tough time loving? And it was my roommate.
Wow.
And so I'd have to come to him, and he'd come to me.
There's something powerful about that.
That is
There's something really powerful.
There is. So it's a practical way to love your
And
brother,
humble yourself.
and to
Yeah.
humble
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
But then maybe not the most
Hygienic.
Yeah, hygienic. Yeah.
Or newcomer friendly
Yeah,
thing.
or newcomer friendly.
Yeah.
But I think it was helpful. But yeah, I think there are other ways to humble yourself.
Yeah,
before your
yeah.
brother
Like
and to
saying
love.
sorry
Yeah.
or
Yeah, exactly.
other
Yeah.
things.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay.
Okay.
Gosh. Okay. Well, thank you for that. Okay. So we have the weird welcoming tradition. We got the holding hands and praying. We got the foot washing.
Yeah.
Were there other things that
Yeah.
come to mind?
What else? Are you
Yeah,
glad
well,
you
I
don't
think
do
for
that?
me, I think one thing that's definitely changed is the segregation between the
okay.
genders. Yeah,
Oh.
because when I came, like it was like on one side of the church were all the brothers, and on the other side the sisters, except when the holding of hands. Yeah. Anyways, but that's kind of complicated.
In the aisle.
Yeah, but when it came to like fellowship time, it's pretty much the guys gathered and the girls gathered, and I spotted that immediately, and I knew it was different. It wasn't something that I experienced at my church growing up, but then I kind of appreciated that because there was a kind of a reverence or a respect for the other gender, and it gave time for relationships between peers of same genders to form. And me coming from a fraternity background, coming in, like I loved it because I could just focus on God. Right? I don't have to worry about
the game,
the drama, the game, the potential marketplace type values and stuff like that. So I definitely appreciated that. Yeah.
Honestly, in the back of my mind, I'm like, I don't know if that's changed. It depends on which church you're at.
Well, I think during our undergrad days, or maybe a little after, there was a shift. Definitely the segregated seating. Not that it was ever like a rule, but that I remember that did happen.
Yeah, but there was a conscious effort. Like, we gotta.
Yeah, and then we said, okay, this is weird, guys. Let's start integrating the seating, please. And then it would be like one row of brothers on the sister side for a while, and then. But over time, I think that aspect at least has gotten better.
But coming from a non-Christian perspective, I had no preconceived notion of what church was supposed to be like. I just thought it's holy. It's like this place where you come to, meet God or whatever. So when I first came, surprisingly, I didn't have a lot of, besides the cringy holding hands, washing feet stuff, like, like in terms of like church, I just thought like, okay, this is supposed to be a holy, somber kind of place, maybe, just kind of. You can't, so
you kind of expected it.
Yeah, I kind of expected a lot, but then, getting to know a lot of my friends who grew up in church and went to church, I mean, I can tell like they had different issues with like a lot of different things, and it was all new to me. So I was just like, oh, how come they have so many problems?
Interesting.
Yeah. You come with some notions of what you think.
Yeah, so for me, I mean, like segregation, all of that's like, oh, okay, well, I guess this is supposed to be like this at church, You're supposed to focus
maybe
on
that's
God.
why some stuff didn't change.
So I had a lot of those kind of issues. Like, I'm new to church, but then it's the church guys who had a lot of different things. So
that is interesting.
Yeah, well, now I think I know why guys still congregate with guys and girls. It's because I just like talking to guys. It's just we can talk about guy things like sports or Marvel or whatever. And I just find
girls play sports and
Marvel too. But then, man, it's just like getting together with So I get that. But it has changed though. I think there is more integration.
I think so.
But it wasn't. Yeah, it was really bad back in the day.
It was bad.
I agree. Yeah. Well, Rick, I mean, was there anything that like you did have issue with? Like, it's all new, but like, you're just kind of like.
Yeah, I mean, well, the first thing that comes to mind back when I was a freshman is, okay, I'm from Hawaii. Yeah. Made that clear. I'm used to going to the beach and, like just that kind of stuff. So our church, we had like a rafting trip. It was really fun, splashing water and everybody gets wet. There's no one should be dry after rafting. And so we're all wet. And then, we have a picnic after and with food. And so after the rafting, my shirt, everything is wet. So I'm like, oh man, I got to take this off. So I took it off and I got in line for food.
Because that's normal for you growing up.
Yeah, it's like, it's a wet shirt.
Why have your shirt on?
Why are you wearing a wet shirt?
Right.
And then I got a tap on my shoulder saying, can you please put on your shirt? I was like, what? My shirt's wet. And like, I know. I'm like, okay. This is weird church. Yeah, so I had to go put on the wet shirt, and it was like, nasty really feeling. And
putting back the wet shirt.
Yeah, so, and it was a little embarrassing
That's a little embarrassing.
Because you got called out.
Because I got called out in line. I'm like in line getting food, and they're like, go put on your shirt. I'm like, oh, what the?
I was surprised you came back. Yeah.
Yeah, so, that was a little shocking, and like, oh yeah, this church.
It's a little uptight.
Yeah, they were uptight about the whole skin thing,
That is a weird thing. Like, still to this day, I remember in undergrad, I had a friend from another church at Berkeley who was like, dude, I heard I heard Grace Pointers aren't allowed to go to the beach. I was like, that's not true, but it is true that when we go to the beach, everyone keeps their shirt on. Yeah. So that's a little weird thing about us. But, it's because we are kind of...
it was interesting. I never encountered that problem because, like, when I went to the NorCal beaches, I was like, it's cold. You didn't want to. It's SoCal. I was just like, I love going to the beach. I love doing, like, same thing. Yeah. But in NorCal, I was like, I'm getting hypothermia.
Yeah, it's like 55 degrees here.
It came up a little bit, but yeah, like, it is. Yeah, I mean, whoever called you out was probably wanting to guard a culture of modesty and just, but. It's weird.
Yeah. And for the
Tell
record,
someone to, like, put on a wet shirt.
For the record, our church, we don't have an official stance on wearing your shirt at the beach. Just want to throw that out there. I mean, my wife's still a little mad about. She's kind of one of these hyper conservatives, I think. But we went to Tahoe one time and. Some freshman guys, sophomore guys said, "Can we take our shirts off?" I said, "Go for it, man." And we still haven't come to an agreement about that one, me and my wife. But yeah, my point is that it varies leader to leader.
Yeah, and
it does vary to leader. Yeah.
Freshman at Tahoe, that reminds me of there was a time later on. So after all of this, I'm thinking like everybody needs to keep the shirt on, and we were out there with some freshmen for an outing, and your
this is like when you were staff.
I was staff. Your parents were there with us. And then all the freshman guys took off their shirt. And they're like running around. And I was like,
oh, man.
And the first thing I did was look at your dad's reaction. I was like, what is he going to say? Yeah. And he was totally cool.
Is it on Flickr?
No, but I'm thinking like, I had to put my shirt on. These guys are running around without their shirt.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm from SoCal, so I went to the beach. And totally used to, going to the beach and then used to wear bathing suit and everything, and I remember that rafting trip.
Oh, you remember that?
Yeah. Well, I was on a raft. We were a raft full of guys, and it was so hot. I just took my shirt off. What else are you gonna do?
Wait, you mean the one where he took his shirt off and
he got called out?
Yeah. But then that was at the picnic where there were other people. Just brothers and sisters just everywhere.
So you put on a
wet
shirt?
I was on a raft full of guys. Right. Yeah. There weren't any leaders around. Just took it off. Of course, when there's a raft of sisters, we're just doing this. Or whatever,
well, I mean, even if the sister wanted to call you out, they can't because they're on the
Sorry. So I think if someone called me out like that, I would have been like what's up? Like,
because you were still kind of new to our church too.
Yeah, I was still kind of new. I was a frat guy, just unrefined, unsanctified, and everything.
So it seems like it's not just like it wasn't the shirt off. It's the uptightness. It's the calling out.
Yeah, it's the uptightness and like what's the
that might be
why it's not what's so tight or what's the harm. Mm-hmm. Right? What's the harm? Everyone does
kind of allergic.
Yeah, and so it's things like that. Okay, well I realize our church is like this. But I'm willing to roll with it because I love our church in the sense that I love how I can get God's word. Everyone's living it out, right? And there's a sense of holiness. And I knew I had to be there. And stuff like that. It was just a small price to pay. Yeah. So I rolled with it. But then now, like 10, 20 years out, I can look back at that and see the wisdom behind some of that because we don't want to draw attention to ourselves. We don't want to stumble others and all that kind of stuff.
On that word stumble, I heard a really funny story. So stumble, for people who don't know, it's like tempting people or like you look really attractive, whatever, right? And there's a story of a guy. The guy's playing ball and like everyone's there playing ball, and then one of the guys was like wearing a cutoff tee, just no sleeves, right? And just playing. And then one of the person, can you go talk to that guy? And the guy that I heard the story from, he went up to go call the guy. He said, "Hey man, can you like change your shirt?" I was like, "Why?" And he goes, "Oh, because it's kind of like stumbling." The guy goes, "People are stumbled by this?" Like, and the guy like, "Yeah, never mind, you're good." I never got called out. I wore cutoff tee playing basketball. I never got called out. I don't know why. I just no stumbling people.
So I remember when I was a youth pastor, I took a bunch of high school guys to Zion. Right, which included Isaiah's brother Noah. And I said, "Hey, let's take our shirts off," because it was hot. So we took it off, and we took like these pictures. I didn't make it a Flickr. I mean, it's on my hard drive. So,
to this day.
To this day. I
put that in the show notes after.
I have it, and John Vang's there. We all know John.
Oh yeah, he
and then he's like, and I could see, it could be stumbling.
Depends on who.
So,
it depends.
yeah,
it varies
yeah,
from
depends.
person to
Yeah.
person. You,
I mean,
you can wear a shirt. No, I got you. But I do feel like, I do feel like for sure we've improved on this as a church.
Yes.
Maybe some work to do still, but like I do feel like back in the day, we kind of expected like non-Christians to act like Christians a little bit. There was a little bit of that going on, and kind of just
not overzealous to
So then now we're like, okay,
and maybe like it was also you're trying to build a culture too, so you're a little more hyper vigilant as well. So it's like factors too, but
yeah. Okay, do you guys have any more for us? We wanted to move on to one more topic before we end the show here today. Okay, so wanted to talk about now some like more recent stuff. So that's kind of ancient history for most of our listeners. They were not around, maybe not even born at the times you're describing now that I think about it. So we want to talk a little bit about some of the more like recent changes, like, and I'm talking within like the past 5-10 years. What are, maybe if we could just throw these out here as a group. We don't really have a system for this, but like, what are some of like the significant changes that we've made recently, and maybe just your thoughts on that. You kind of your reaction and kind of if you thought that was a good or a bad thing, and so like I think one thing that stood out to me, and this is pretty recent. So I can start us off, is the whole Sabbath week phenomenon. And I think that started like 2 years ago? Year ago, I think. About a year.
It started when you guys went out to Philly.
Was that the first time we actually did it?
Yeah. A year ago.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's like a big thing that I don't know how that even would have come across to your generation when you were our age. That might have been like, I don't know, it would have kind of been unheard of. But basically now, once a week, as a church, we try to build a week where we don't really do like the regular rhythms of ministries. So we basically say nothing that requires a meeting or like a planning doc. We like spend a night for soul care, spend a night just building relationships and hanging out with people, spend a night just hanging out with your fellowship in like an unstructured way. And personally, I think it's been really good for us. It kind of forces us to slow down, gives us a breather, kind of helps our staff to just sort of come back again to like, why am I doing this? And connect to Jesus again.
Good reset point.
Yeah. So I think that is, to me, one of the biggest changes that we've made, and a very recent one. Yeah. But I think it's helped to kind of offset a lot of, I think just some of the difficulty of doing ministry, where it can feel relentless, and it can feel at times like, like we don't make times to just connect, and we don't make times to just like grow in our relationships because we're just doing. So to me, that would be one of my top ones.
I mean, how do you guys feel about like what do you guys think about that change?
About that? I think it's really good because back in the day, oh man, I think, well, I can't speak for other people, but this is my sentiment that other people thought this way. Like for me, I prided myself on doing a lot of work. Like I was a business guy. I wanted to go to Wall Street. They work like crazy.
Are you a type 3, Pastor Will?
Yeah, no, actually I'm a type 7.
Oh, you're type 7?
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought I was
Enneagram.
So I'm just kind of confused enneagrammatically. But anyways, like when I heard, Michael Milken, right? He's a Wall Street guy. You guys don't know. He worked like 80 to 100 hours, slept 4 hours. And I thought, man, if he's going to do that for money, I got to do that for the Lord.
Yeah. Wow.
And so I'm going to be like, okay, well, let's work. Let's do this. No one forced me to, but that was kind of like my work ethic, and that's a sense that I got from the oldies back then. But looking back, now that I'm older, I'd be like, I think that was a little too unhealthy. I mean, no one was forcing us to do all of that, but then that was kind of the culture. So I'm really glad to see that things have changed, that we're taking this monthly Sabbath, and I praise God for that.
Yeah, and I'm thankful just because like with a lot of church planting and stuff like that, like just a lot of the relationships have gone disrupted.
We feel thinner.
Yeah, we feel a little thinner because we've just been, I mean, you plant a church, like you send people out to plant a church, it disrupts a lot relationally. I think maybe part of the reason why we were able to run so hard before was like everyone was together and that there was a lot of relationship, right? And our church, because of church planting, which is praise God for, there is that cost of relationships thinning, right? And so like trying to build in at times, so yeah. I'm
trying not to laugh because as soon as I said we feel thinner, I knew that some people are going to make comments about that. So I already know. I'm
like, why are you smiling? Let's say something weird.
This just went through my head. I know.
Okay. Can I give one?
People. Yeah.
I think one of the things that I felt like changed the most since I was a freshman is sort of how open we are to other churches and groups. And like that I think for me that's the biggest one actually.
Really? Okay.
Because we were always connected. So one of the reasons why I stayed at our church or was really interested is because I remember meeting you, and you're telling me how Pastor is like really good friends with JP Moreland. Yeah. And JP Moreland was one of my heroes in high school.
Oh,
so
yeah,
apologetics.
right.
He's your Vineyard.
Yeah, I'm Vineyard. He was Vineyard, and then like my mentor was getting me into apologetics, and then I was like, this church is apologetics, and so I was like blown away. And so like I was blown away by how many people were connected to, whether it was like JP Moreland, Josh McDowell, Sean McDowell, like William Lane Craig, some of these guys. So we've always been connected, but we've always been under the radar because we don't want to attract attention to ourselves. We just want to like be faithful, right? But now it's like, I mean, Set Network, College Collaborate, like just I can name so many things where we become really open. And so I just want to get your guys' thoughts on that. Like I mean, I have some thoughts, but
my thoughts on that?
Yeah, just
like, do you see that as a change that's happened? And
I think so. I think we're very. I mean, I think we thought of ourselves as like very small, you know, and we're just kind of doing our own thing. Yeah. And it was just when we first started, it was just Berkeley, right? So it's like we never thought of ourselves as anything more than that. And then
never thought about like this becoming a nationwide.
Yeah, no. And,
like,
and then I think for me it was, I mean, like getting guest speakers and things like that. It was always cool because like, you know, you could name drop people or something. Like, oh, so and so was at our church. But still, I think the thing that really got my eyes open a little bit was collaborative. And it was these other people who kind of visited our church.
Other college ministries.
They're looking at college ministries and they saw something and they wanted to sort of make a big deal out of it by having a conference and like having us share our story and how we're doing things. And honestly, like I said, this is the theme. I was in church, so this is the only church that I've known, right? And so kind of seeing other churches and hearing from them and kind of their challenges and what they're going through, and then their willingness or wanting to learn like how we do things and what we're doing. I was just like, wow, that was kind of eye-opening for me. It's like, oh, it's not like this everywhere else. You know, it's very different, and we have something that maybe they're interested in. And so
and for those of you who don't know, College Collaborative, it's a conference of collegiate church planting churches, and we gather to share knowledge and
it's
get
hosted
inspired by each
North
other.
American Mission Board, and there was a guy there who was like really trying to get a lot of these college ministries together to share knowledge and just like build a movement basically of like collegiate focused church planting. It was really cool. Eventually it just kind of stopped. It
with COVID and stuff.
COVID and things like that, and just no one to like really organize that. But we're still connected to those churches, and I think we've learned a lot from them, and as much as they've learned from us too. And some of those guys, I still text here and there, just like, hey, what's going on?
I mean, we still keep in touch with all of them.
Steal their ideas. All the time.
They have a lot of good things that we're trying to incorporate.
You
know, and vice versa, I guess. And so it's been good in that way.
And so to that end, like I think, like once we appreciated what we had. I mean, I came in because from other churches, I was like, wow, this is amazing, right? But just being able to see now us kind of opening and seeing like, wow, God's given us something really special, precious, and we want to bless other people with it. And I mean, for me, like even just like doing Inner High, which is where we go out to other, ethnic under-resourced churches and do like youth service for them, because a lot of these youth don't have their own service, their own language. Like I came from a church like that, and so like when we started that, Pastor, when you started, like, and I was part of that initiative too, like in 2010, 2009, and that was just like I was so thankful for that, and even
Stephen's favorite ministry.
It's my favorite ministry, and I just because that's where I grew up, and I know how hard it was, and I think that's also showed people like it's really not about us. It's just we want to see the kingdom of God expand, right? And I think it's blessed a lot of people. And so that's one of the changes.
Even now, like your dad, we got in touch with him, and he's connecting us in SoCal. With like all of these other churches.
I did youth retreats for his home church and stuff. So
so I mean, it's been a blessing for us because like we get to go out there and like. For some people who it just reignites their heart for youth ministry.
Because it's tough for them. They're like doing it on their own. They don't. It's not like us.
And they're so appreciative of like even anything that we do for them. So
and I think just the whole aspect of like partnering with kind of other campus ministries too. I think we were. I kind of think this was a weakness of ours back in the day where we kind of, not that we weren't open to that, but we didn't prioritize that. kind of just did our own thing for whatever reasons. And I think that's the way we've grown too, just like being more open to that, just being more friendly, honestly, like, hey, we're here, let's meet, let's talk. So I think for us, year one church planners, doing that in Philly, like meeting the local NAM and Send guys has been a huge blessing. Shout out to, you know, like Stan Williams and Kyle Canty and these guys Brian Musser, and then just like the other Christian groups on campus. So like, you know, we do a lot with like FCA at the Penn campus. And I don't know, I just think that didn't occur to us before, but super thankful just that we're kind of doing more of that and getting involved in that way. So any others you guys want to throw out there, like kind of changes that we made in the recent?
Yeah, I think one thing that I've seen change a lot is just the amount of input that that we're getting and asking for. Because back in the day, and maybe this is because I was very low on the totem pole and not high up, but it always seems like that the leadership, like they went up to a mountain, right? And then God spoke to them.
I felt that.
And then they came down and like, thus saith the Lord, this is what we're going to do as a church. And then we're like, okay, let's roll with it. Cool. And then there wasn't any input or any opportunity or as much to give feedback or to like ask questions about okay, you know, can we get more clarification? But now things are like so different. And because I know it's a reflection of like your dad and your mom, Isaiah, because they're hungry for data, right? I mean, data is really important. They need more information, and it's important that we, especially, you know, when the overseers make decisions about our church, that we get input from everyone, not just amongst ourselves, but from the leads, the full-time leads, the campus leads, even from staff and students even. And we're regularly polling, you know, through like Google Forms. Hey, what do you think about this? Can we get feedback on this? I've seen, you know, there's that anonymous email channel that Pastor Ed put up, and anyone could write into that. As well as that Vine or Combo that we have as well. And,
just kind of internal forum.
Yeah, and I've seen like Pastor Ed and Kelly, they're regularly talking to people outside of our church to get some input or some feedback about you know what decisions or directions that we need to go. And so that has definitely changed a lot. I mean, dramatically.
I mean, to add to that is the Q&A times that we have with them too. I mean, they have so many, almost after... For a season last semester, I remember even with the college students, right? I mean, we would have Q&A times, and they'd ask everything.
Yeah, we did Q&A at Philly too.
Yeah, like from the actual message to just about our church and everything. So I think that's been a really positive change, I feel like.
I had a related one, just kind of getting like people involved younger. So like getting our students involved in more things, getting them to help like plan things.
Yeah, because we used to be a little Shaolin Temple.
I
appreciated that.
Shaolin Temple.
In, but then I think if I wasn't burnt out coming as a freshman, I'd be like, this just doesn't let me do anything. Like
that's why I thought you were going to leave freshman year.
But I was so burnt out. I was like, I just need to do nothing.
I remember that.
Yeah, we're lucky, but because I think back in the day it was sort of like you have to like. You don't have to quite be Jesus, but you have to kind of be like almost Apostle Paul if you're going to serve in any capacity in our church. That was sort of our mentality. So we've chilled out on that a little bit. So I'm thankful for that because I think we benefited from that, and people grow faster as a result.
Yeah. I just want to say, like, maybe to wrap that one up, that's the challenge for like every organization to get that kind of what is happening on the ground, that kind of and feedback and do that well and. We have our challenges and things like that, but I do think it's something we continue to grow and just creating that space for that to happen in a really constructive way. So I'm thankful for that too. Yeah.
Boy, I think we are almost out of time here, so I'm going to just rattle off a couple other things that I think are important that they've changed, and then feel free to throw some out more. But I think it's significant that we don't turn in WRs anymore. That's something
Weekly reflections.
Yeah. We still do them, but we don't turn them in, and that was just it was just one of those things that a lot of people just felt weird about. And I think just given sort of some cultural shifts that we were maybe a little slow to recognize, we figured, okay, it's best to not do that anymore.
Well, I mean, at a certain level of leadership, we still do, just because, like, among that leadership,
that's right.
It's like, you know, that is part of our
full-time people.
It's needed.
Yeah, and to be honest, I hate sitting down to write it. I hate it. Like,
it's the pastor of our church, everybody. Pastor of our church.
Overseers.
Every week, I'm like, why? Okay, so, but then I just obey.
Yeah.
And then at the end of an hour and a half, 2 hours, I'm feeling like, oh man, I'm really glad I did that.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I did that.
Yeah. So there's something really good about the structure that I miss.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. So
there's so much that happens, you know, and I think for me, like, just sitting down makes you kind of think like, okay, my memory's going, so I have to kind of sit down and kind of go, okay, what happened last week?
Yeah. We live like a month in a week.
Yeah. Because if I don't do that, then I'm just back in the saddle. I'm going, 60, 70, 80 miles per hour, and it's another week of just going strong without getting that, oh man, I'm really thankful for how God worked in my life kind of moment. I mean, I think that would be dangerous. I'm really thankful for WR. Although I still hate it. I'm going to hate it. Wait, what day is it today?
I don't know. Today, Thursday.
Yeah. I'm going to hate it Monday. I'll be thankful Monday afternoon.
Yeah. But I do think some of the changes have made it like, that structure's good. But then also now, okay, I don't have that structure. So how do I continue to keep up with and keep and stay in touch with the people and get connected with what's going on in their life? For me, it's made me try recognizing the weakness in me being like relational that way, and so it's forced me to grow in that way too. So it's you emphasize different things in different seasons, right?
Yeah, sure.
So,
Yeah. All right, I think that's all I had actually.
Yeah.
Do you have any last ones to add? Any ones to throw out?
I do have one last one. It might be a little bit long, a little bit. This one is just one that I feel, but like I feel like it's important to bring up though, because I do think like how we approach family. Like parents, because in college is that time where you're becoming more independent, you're gonna become an adult, and so there's that natural separation from parents and stuff like that. And like I remember in undergrad hearing a lot of testimonies about people like going like, wow, like I need to stay to grow spiritually, right? And if I go back home where there's no church, there's no like community, whatever, like that'll be like spiritually really difficult. And so a lot of the testimonies I heard were like that, which is sort of like, man, even though it really disappointed my parents, like I wanted to stay, and I had an easy out because my parents kicked me out of the house. They're like, go leave SoCal. So when they asked me, I want to come back, I was like, no, you kicked me out. I had it easy. It was still hard though for them. But like now a lot of the testimonies I hear is like,
He's good with his parents, by the way. Now.
Yeah, no,
they come over all the time.
Oh my goodness, I'm so thankful for them. Yeah. But just like like now it's a lot of like how do we love our parents together? I think part of that has to do with our church's aging, right? And so like even just a couple weeks ago, I told my mom like she was over helping me watch my kid, and I was like, Mom, when you get sick and old, you can stay with me, And she was, it doesn't matter how busy I am, like you can stay with me, right? And I feel like that's a shift. Is that right? Would you guys agree, or is that kind of
What your parents?
Just that the kind of testimonies, or just that. I mean, I know your mom.
My mom lives
true.
with me since since 2000.
That's true.
So that's But I think as we get older, right? I think we realize. I mean, for my family, I mean, they're not Christian, but then because of my commitments, they sort of moved out of Hawaii, came here. My mom moved in with me, and then. From there, she started coming out to our church, the Korean department, and then she became a Christian through that.
Wow.
So,
that's awesome.
So there was that blessing. And then, what else is she going to do with her life? So she spent a lot of time babysitting, raising.
She watched our kids.
Yeah. I mean, she has like a long list of all the kids. Some of them are in college now, but, that she's watched. And so she got really connected. And I imagine like if it wasn't for that, I think she would have been pretty lonely and isolated because like growing up we didn't have like a lot of friends outside of our immediate family because we're so busy. So
I feel like I'm hearing more and more stories like that, and maybe it's just age where it's like becoming a blessing to our family. Right?
I think what we got better at or more aware of is that we really need to disciple people in this area. I think before we would kind of assume that people were taking care of their parents
people knew how to like children, like call on birthdays.
Yeah, as leadership, we realize people are not doing that and are not good at that a lot of times, and so it's something
I was terrible.
Yeah, it's like we need to push people to actually love their families, and I don't know. I think maybe some of us thought that was sort of a given, but realizing
so bad.
Yeah, we gotta help people do that.
Yeah, I think definitely there has been an increase in gaining wisdom, right, about how to love your parents. Because, boy, I know that I've said stuff like, hey, you got to call your parents more. Hey, why don't you go spend time with your parents because of, for various reasons. And depending upon the person, you have to spend more time or pay more attention to your parents. But then there might be another person who might be a little bit too attached to their parents, maybe emotionally and even financially, but then they're grown adults, and maybe for the sake of like that person's marriage, just a little bit more independence, healthier maturity, independence is better. And so you could speak into that a little bit. But then, so I like to say just wisdom with regard to parents, how to best love your parents because it might be pulling back, it might be moving toward. It's really difficult. It's really difficult.
It is. Yeah, it's hard to navigate.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. Okay, I think we got to wrap up, but I want to thank you guys so much for joining us today. Our first guest on our podcast.
All right.
Wow. We should do this more often. This is great.
Yeah, we should. Then we have to then we talk less. But I think just to kind of wrap up, final thought here, I do think, like, the point of today is not to be like, oh, pat ourselves on the back. Look, we figured it all out. Like, I think totally as a church, we're still figuring things out. You know, there's still room to grow. But like, we're not the same people that we were 10 years ago. We're not the same church we were 10 years ago. And I think it's appropriate to take note of that and to have that help us, like, think through, like, how can we continue to change and grow and just be the best church we can be, you know, and that's our goal. So, I just wanted to end with that note in case it came off that way, I guess, for our listeners. So.
Yeah. So if anything we said today helped other churches out there, or even just like, even within our church, you know, grow and stuff, and we're thankful for it. So. Yeah, so like and subscribe.
I gotta say that every week.
And we will see you guys next time.
Yeah, let's do this again. Maybe at the beach.